And when it comes to individuals who have committed serious violent crimes like rape, murder, human trafficking, or pedophilia, that lack of coordination can have devastating consequences. That is why we are offering an amendment that is clear, focused, and rooted in something that isn't so common sense.
Senator, can you explain to our viewers why this amendment was so important to you and your caucus?
Certainly. I mean, these amendments are oftentimes called hostile amendments, and I would respectfully suggest that this was a common sense amendment, because right now, the way the law was signed is cooperation between local law enforcement and federal authorities is permissive for some very serious crimes like murder, manslaughter, rape, human trafficking, pedophilia. Those were the specific crimes that I wanted to make mandatory for our local law enforcement agencies to comply with our federal authorities. And the Democrats resoundingly rejected it. And I can't comprehend what their end game is, because to me, this isn't someone who's charged with one of these serious crimes. It was about someone who was convicted of a very serious crime and being released into our communities, making New Jerseyans less safe.
Did you expect your colleagues across the aisle to reject this so resoundingly?
Unfortunately, I did, but I had a glimmer of hope that common sense could prevail. Unfortunately, as I've been taught by so many of my mentors, that common sense isn't so common. But to me, I don't understand what their end game is. This puts local law enforcement in a silo, potentially prevents them from complying and working with federal authorities to get some really bad people off of the street. People who are convicted of murder, manslaughter, rape, human trafficking, child pedophilia. It's a real problem.
Many supporters of the bills that the governor signed had said that ICE and the president are trampling on constitutional rights, citing some of the tactics that they've actually employed, saying that the three bills signed would keep law enforcement effective and accountable while strengthening trust within the communities they protect. Can you respond to that belief?
Look, I don't understand how New Jerseyans are going to trust the state government at this point to keep them safe. One of the paramount duties of government is to keep its citizenry safe. Preventing local law enforcement from speaking to federal authorities about those who have been convicted, who are, by the way, here in this country illegally and have been convicted of murder, manslaughter, rape, human trafficking, or pedophilia. I don't understand how that makes anyone in the state of New Jersey have better trust of their law enforcement or better trust of their government. Quite the opposite.
How does the law enforcement community feel about these bills? I assume you've spoken with quite a few in the community.
Absolutely. So here's the problem when you have something that is permissive in nature. When it's mandatory in nature, law enforcement knows exactly what to do. When it's permissive in nature, it leaves a very gray area. And here's the problem. I was always taught that when you write laws, you want them to be clear and unambiguous. Now we have ambiguity in our law. Law enforcement is going to be unsure whether they're supposed to be working with federal authorities or not. And because of the licensing issues for our law enforcement officers in the state of New Jersey, they are going to be in fear, if in fact that they do comply with federal authorities, of losing their ability to be a law enforcement officer due to licensing issues. And I hope and pray that our Attorney General's office is not going to be coming after officers for actually complying with federal authorities. There is this thing in our United States Constitution called the Supremacy Clause, and I think it applies here directly.